Okay, here's part 1 to the test review. I'm going to do this in 2 separate videos. So I'll do part 1 and part 2. So points, lines, and planes are the 3 undefined terms in geometry. Okay, so we're going to complete these postulates and we have to know them. All right, so it says through any 2 points there is exactly one line. That word exactly is important. And through any 3 non-collinear points, there is exactly one plane. And if 2 points lie in a plane, then the line containing them does too. Okay, if 2 lines intersect, they intersect at exactly 1 point. If 2 planes intersect, then they intersect at exactly 1 line. Okay. So if point B is between A and C, so if it looks something like this, B is between A and C. Remember, between this means that they have to be collinear. B is not necessarily in the middle, it's just between. Then the length of AB plus the length of BC has to equal the length of AC. This is also known as the segment addition postulate. Right. And then if S is in the interior of angle PQR, so here's the angle PQR. S is on the interior here somewhere. Then the measure of angle PQS plus the measure of angle SQR has to equal the measure of angle PQR. And this is the angle addition postulate. Okay. Then we're going to sketch 3 non-collinear points on plane Q. So here's plane Q. And then I need 3 non-collinear points. This, A, B, and C. Okay, then I'm going to sketch 3 collinear points on plane R. These should be italicized. I just realized the print doesn't look very good. Okay, so we got plane R. So there's plane R, and I need 3 collinear points this time, and to name the points, just like here I had to name the points. So, like this, A, B, C. All right, so sketch an angle and label the vertex. So here's an angle. Here's my vertex. I'll call it A. Sketch a linear pair of angles, looks like this, angle 1 and 2. So on questions like 13, you need to draw and label a picture. So it says U is between T and V. So here's T, here's V, here is U. Then I'm going to label it. TU is 3x plus 1. UV is 2x minus 2. And TV is x plus 67. Okay, so how to set something up to solve for x. There is nothing that tells me that these are congruent. Okay, even though I kind of put U in the middle, it doesn't matter. I can't set these equal to each other. It's possible, but I don't know that. So instead, I'm going to use the segment addition postulate, which says that 3x plus 1 plus 2x minus 2 equals x plus 67. And remember that you got to show that first step is 0 work. You just plug it in. So then this gives me 5x minus 1 equals x plus 67. So 4x equals 68. So x equals 68 divided by 4. 68 is divisible by 4. So 4 goes into 6 once with 2 left over, and that's 28. Then 4 goes into 28 7 times, so x equals 17. Put that in right there. Then I have to find the length of TU and the length of UV. So this is going to be 3 times 17 plus 1. Remember, I can do 3 times 10 is 30. 3 times 7 is 21. So 30 and 21 is 51 plus 1 is 52. So TU is 52. And then UV, that's 2 times 17 minus 2. It's going to be 34 minus 2, which is 32. 32 there. All right, so 14 says, let A and B be supplementary angles. Let the measure of angle A be this, the measure of angle B be this. What is the value of x, and what are the measures of the angles? Okay, so if they're supplementary, that means they add to give me 180. So x squared plus 12x plus 3x squared plus 20 equals 180. Okay, so I've added them up, set them equal to 180. So now I just combine my like terms here. I've got 4x squared plus 12x plus 20 equals 180. Right, so this is a quadratic because it's got an x squared term, so I need to set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract my 180 over here. I'm going to get 4x squared plus 12x minus 160 equals 0. So now that it's set equal to 0, I need to factor it and solve it. So I'm going to factor out my GCF, which is 4. So it leaves me with x squared plus 3x minus 4 goes into 16 4 times 0, so 40 equals 0. Notice my GCF did not disappear. It is still equal to 0. So now I need to get it factored into two terms so that it looks like this. So I need two numbers that multiply to give me a negative 40. And then since this is negative, that means the signs have to be opposite. So they got to multiply to give me a negative 40, and they got to subtract to give me, or combine, really, because it'd be positive and negative, to be 3. So my factors of 40 are 1 and 40, 2 and 20. 3 doesn't go in there. It's 4 and 10. It's 5 and 8. And then back around to the beginning. So the signs have to be different. And since this is positive, then the bigger number has to be positive, which means it's the smaller one that is negative. So of all these, when I combine them, the ones that it's going to give me that, add to give me that positive 3 are going to be these two. So that's going to give me x minus 5 and x plus 8. That is the factored form. I still have to solve it. So to solve it, I set each one of these equal to 0. Notice I still have this and this. That's what makes it the factored form. So then I do x minus 5 equals 0 and x plus 8 equals 0. So x equals 5 and x equals a negative 8. Okay, and then I need to try both of these. So when I do this, the positive one is going to work, but the negative one, still got to try it to see if it's going to work. When I put the negative 8 in here, I get negative 8 squared. That's a positive 64. But then negative 8 times 12 is a negative 96. So a positive 64 and a negative 96 is going to give me a negative angle. Remember, negative angles exist, but they're not going to happen with right now. If you get negative angle measures right now, you're wrong. So you can't always just throw the negative one out, but it does not work here. So this is the only one that I use. So this is my x. Actually, both of these are my x values. But then the actual measures of the angles, I use this to plug that in. So for the measure of angle A, that is 5 squared plus 12 times 5. So 5 squared is 25, 12 times 5 is 60, so 25 and 60 is 85 degrees. That's the measure of angle A. And then measure of angle B is equal to 3 times 5 squared plus 20. So 5 squared is 25 times 3 is 75 plus 20 is 95 degrees. That's equal to the measure of angle B. and these are supposed to be supplementary. When I add those two together, I get 180, so I'm good. Remember, at quadratics, that is a review. That is something you should know how to do, and you should have gone back and reviewed on your own if you didn't. All right, 15. U is the midpoint of line segment TV. So, gotta draw and label my picture. Here's line segment TV, and then it says U is the midpoint, which means these are congruent. Then when I label, TU is 5x plus 7, UV is 8x minus 5. Okay. There's nothing to add them up and set them equal to, because I don't know what TV is. These are congruent. That means their measurements are equal, so that right there tells you what to do. 5x plus 7 equals 8x minus 5. So that's going to give me 3x over here and 12 over here, so x equals 4. So x equals 4. Then we got to plug this in for TU. 5 times 4 plus 7, so that's going to be 27. And then 8 times 4 minus 5, that's going to be 32 minus 5 is 27, which that's what you'd expect because they're supposed to be congruent, but you've got to, it's a good way to check yourself by doing both of them. Then it says write 4 names for the angle. So the vertex of this angle is U. Remember, every time I name one, I've got to use the angle symbol. So they all start with the angle symbol. I can use the number that's floating on the inside, so it could be angle 3. Since there's only one angle coming off the vertex, I can use the vertex and call it angle U. Or I can call it angle VUT or angle TUV. Those are my options. Okay. An angle measures 12 degrees more than half the measure of its supplement. Find the measure of the angle. So we're translating. An angle measures. Okay, that means an angle is. So an angle, which is x, is 12 degrees more, so it's a positive 12, more than half the measure of its supplement, and the measure of its supplement is 180 minus x. There's your equation. So now you just got to solve it. So x equals 12 plus 1/2 times 180 is 90 minus 1/2 x. Right, so when I add this over here, this is like 1, so it's going to become 2 over 2. So when I add this over here, this is going to give me 3/2 x equals, and then 90 and 12 is 102. Then I need to get x by itself, so that means I need to divide by 3/2, which is the same as multiplying by 2/3. So I multiply both sides by 2/3, and these cancel out. That's why we did it. Then I can put that over 1, and then I can multiply and then reduce, or I can reduce then multiply, either way. But multiplying fractions is easy. You just multiply straight across. So x is equal to 204 over 3. And 204 is divisible by 3 because 2 plus 4 is 6. So 3 goes into 26 times with 2 left over. 3 goes into 24 8 times. So x equals 68. And then I go back and read my question. It says find the measure of the angle. Well, x represents the measure of the angle. I've solved for x. So the measure of the angle equals 68 degrees. Next one. Ray Bd bisects angle ABC. All right, so here's my angle. I really have no idea what the actual measure is, but it looks like this. ABC. Here is ray BD, and it bisects it, which means these are congruent. So then if the measure of angle ABD is 5y minus 3, so 5y minus 3, and the measure of angle DBC is 3y plus 15, then what's the measure of angle ABD? ABD, I'm looking for this one. All right, so angle addition postulate says this piece plus this piece equals the whole thing, but I don't have anything to represent the whole thing, so that's not an option. But I do know that these are congruent because this is a bisector, which means I can set these equal to each other. So 5y minus 3 equals 3y plus 15. which is going to give me 2y equals 18, so y equals 9. All right, so I found y, but it's asking me for the measure of angle ABD, so I've got to plug that back in. So 5 times 9 minus 3, so that's 45 minus 3, which is 42. So the measure of angle ABD is equal to 42 degrees. All right, true or false? Angle measures. 1 and 2 are vertical angles. 1 and 2 are not vertical angles because vertical angles do not share a side, so this is false. 2 and 3 are supplementary. Well, they're a linear pair, so they have to be supplementary, so that's true. 1 and 2 are a linear pair, true, because they form a line. They are supplementary and adjacent. Measure of angle 3 plus the measure of angle 4 equals 180. That is true because they are a linear pair. 2 and 4 are adjacent angles. That is false. They share a vertex, but they don't share a side. 1 and 3 are vertical angles. That is true. They are created by 2 intersecting lines, and they share a vertex. So then I'm going to find the value of x. And you could also expect a question like this to say not only find the value of x, but identify the type of angle pair. All right, well, these angles that are labeled, these are vertical angles. So the part that you know about vertical angles that helps you with how to set something up is that vertical angles are congruent. So if they're congruent, their measurements are equal. So adding them up doesn't make any sense. Instead, it's 3x minus 8 equals 5x minus 28. And then you solve. So I get 2x over here. And when I add that over here, this is going to give me 20. So x equals 10. So I could go back and plug it in, but it just says find the value of x. I did that. I'm done. No need to plug it back in. Okay, and that concludes part 1.